Welcome to the show, Sarah. I'm really excited to have you here and just how open you are about the things that you've dealt with in your life that have contributed to some really difficult aspects of your mental health and how you're using that to help others, specifically with your artwork. We'll get to all of that. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Let's talk then. First of all, you've been struggling with a lot of these issues since birth. Let's talk about that and just let everyone know kind of your background and the health implications that you've dealt with over the years.
Yeah, absolutely. So for starters, I was a premature baby. And for those that aren't familiar, that just means that you are basically brought into the world a little bit earlier than desired for developmental purposes. And right from the gate, being 3 months early, my family was told that I would have a series of issues. The first being I'm actually partly paralyzed on the left side. That's due to minor cerebral palsy. So some mobility issues there. And when you're premature, you're also given a lot of different types of medication. So immediately I was antibiotic resistant, things like that. So really prone to lots of illnesses, viruses, pneumonia, ear infections for many, many years. Probably the biggest actually was I was born with extremely underdeveloped lungs. So for the first 1 to 2 years of my life, I was constantly brought to the hospital, coding, stopped breathing, died a couple of times. Obviously, in our infancy, right, we don't have recollection of this, but really where that carries through is as you're developing and going through the public school system and the socialization circuit, really there was an inner and outer process happening for me. The first was high anxiety, undiagnosed OCD happening, panic attacks in conjunction with being partially paralyzed really set me apart from being able to socialize with other kids easily. I was in special education as well. Comprehension issues, really slow to process things. And I think the slowness actually really carried through my young adulthood too. So that was all these obstacles I was always climbing and really just from the start noticing that I was very different from other people, which was an interesting space to be in when you're a child. Really
How
going
early were you?
sorry,
How
three,
early were you? Excuse me. Three,
3 months early.
3 months early. That's really early.
Yes, late 90s. So there was just, thank goodness, the medical process coming out to help people like myself in that NICU space. And I had really amazing parent advocates, honestly.
Mhm.
It could have had a very different outcome.
And to this day, your parents are your greatest advocates.
My goodness, they taught me the importance of really asking questions and standing by people and walking into uncertainty with caution, but also ambition. And I think that that's just really beautiful.
I do a lot of work in patient advocacy. I have in the past over the last many years. And, people really have to choose a team, build a team, a trusted team. So that's your circle in your life, and then also your medical care. And I've interviewed and met and befriended people like you who have been patients their whole lives. And of course, we're patients because we're born, but who are actively having to seek and receive care from a very young age. And so even that part of it's different because even as an adult, if you have an illness, you're going to appointments, you're experiencing things in a healthcare realm that your friends are not. They're living their best life, they're doing their thing. And so I can't imagine what that was like for you as a kid, because even though you're going to a children's hospital and you're, feeling very welcome there and they do a good job, most children's hospitals do a wonderful job, you still have to come back into that classroom and feel different. So sometimes I think what I've found with the people I've talked to, sometimes the hospital settings where you might feel most comfortable because there's people like you there.
Yes. Just even having the doctors that you can ask questions to and they can explain it in a way that you process information, even as a child, really brings a lot of comfort amidst so much uncertainty. But really comes down to the parents. My mom is an absolute warrior, and I give her all my gratitude as much as I can, for sure.
Well, and also let's talk about the teachers then, because just like any profession, there are good ones and not so good ones, just like physicians. And so some of those teachers who inspired you, who supported you, could make your life much easier. And then there are others who didn't.
Yes, the formative years for me really actually was in the educational system. So being in special education, I was at a really wonderful primary school, And I think they took notice of how I performed better when I worked with other kids. So one of the beautiful things that happened is as I progressed with special ed and I actually accelerated well past what the predicted outcome would be, they started actually pulling me from class and I worked with other kids with more severe disabilities and mental health problems. And I kind of acted as their translator. So even as early as I remember second, third, fourth grade, I would kind of be this liaison between the average student and the severely disabled student. I was very much caught in the middle. And this would happen almost every single day in physical education class, in regular academics. So having that support of making me a teacher to better myself, but also to help others, even at such a young age and not be limited, was amazing. And there was, of course, the non-supportive, naturally people that would try to be overcautious, right? And say, you're never going to make it to college. You'll be lucky to get through high school. You're not going to pass grades. Also very difficult to hear when you're really just learning about the world for the first time and you're just trying to be a kid. So that was
a kid.
a whole thing. Yeah.
Let's take a break. When we come back, let's talk about the mental health issues. Specifically, you brought up OCD
Yeah.
and the challenges you face with that. And you came up in a high anxiety environment in terms of just trying to fit in, like you said, and that carried over and it's still with you as an adult. So let's take a break and we'll come back. We'll talk more with you, Sarah. Thank you. We are back talking with you, Sarah Edwards. You are the owner of a company called Set Apart Company. And I bring that up to say that you were told you might not graduate high school. You were in special education. And now you're a business owner. And we're going to get to all the amazing things you do with your business and your artwork. But there's still some hurdles that you face. And one of them is OCD. So let's talk about that. And how early in life did that start for you? And I know you've had some real big peaks with that. And then right now you're in a better space.
Yeah. I can remember my earliest moments of OCD now that I know what the condition is. Back when I was probably about 5 or 6 years old, I would have just constant fears of something bad happening to my parents. When I would eat foods, if something was going to happen to my body, if I left a candle on, if the oven was on, things like that, all throughout childhood. And I remember in school having such severe panic attacks. I would be taken out of class probably every single day, brought to the nurse's room, probably spent the first 18 years of my life dry heaving.
What did a panic attack look like for you?
Oh, man. Definitely nausea, inability to eat, and then just this absolute meltdown mentality. Really always struggling to breathe, struggling to get oxygen. And
Just hard to settle yourself.
absolutely. Happened all the time. Or I'd have kind of a nauseous state and I would remove myself before anything occurred. So that was really the 18 years of my life. I had gone to different doctors and nobody really pointed me towards anything related to OCD, just, generalized anxiety disorder right off the bat, panic attack disorder right off the bat. And that's really where the progress stopped for me, but the OCD didn't. As I progressed throughout school, I did graduate a year early because I actually maxed out on all my classes, which is quite the parallel from
Yes, to what you were told would happen.
Yeah, it was amazing, a triumph experience. But when I got into college and started living on my own, that's when really things started to spiral out of control. Eventually got to the point where I couldn't function. I wasn't eating. I dropped weight. At one point, I had a trigger that I thought I committed a hit and run, which is very common for people who have harm OCD, which was unbeknownst at the time. And I was driving around New York City, thought I committed a hit and run, locked myself in a bathroom for 3 days because every time I heard a siren, I would have like a hallucination, panic attack. In New York, there's a lot of sirens. So
You're kind of stuck. Right. And so during this time, did you have your parents who you say are so supportive, but you didn't realize you were having an attack that wasn't logical or real. So you don't even want to reach out to them for fear of upsetting them or you're in trouble, you think.
Yes, you start to believe that you are a sociopath or someone that's harmful or broken, that you'll be put into an institution if you were to tell people the intrusive thoughts that you're having. So my mom just got so used to answering the phone at 2, 3, 4 in the morning with these panicked irrationalities. We didn't know what to make of it. And it got to the point where the pain was so bad of the intrusive thoughts. I remember throwing knives down a garbage chute, just like anything compulsive would come up. I did start to plan my suicide. And it was 3 days before my 21st birthday on Christmas Eve. I was completely alone and I was going to go out with my plan and I didn't, thankfully. And that's when I finally got help and finally got some answers, which was really wonderful. But it was a very difficult, hard to relive time of
Yeah.
my life. Yeah.
And one of the things you shared with me off air is that driving, you mentioned you thought you had a hit and run. And so driving is still a trigger for you. And so because you've made such progress with the tools that you've been taught, you don't want to go near driving still because you feel like it might trigger you. So that's pretty limiting, but it is also a very probably liberating decision because you have to try to manage your mental health. And if you know driving is going to be a bad thing for you, then you don't drive.
Sorry. The call came in right here.
And that's
Called it. Yes, exactly. You go through exposure response prevention. I did start driving afterward during my recovery process, but the recovery process was so brutal and taxing that I had to kind of make a decision of what do I want my lifestyle to be? And I had to start owning that I have a handicap and OCD is a debilitating condition. It is considered a handicap. And owning that was a really big step for me. And I've had everybody tell me that's the wrong decision, that I should work past it, but I really know myself best and I feel really empowered to own that. And there's always times when life can change and evolve, and I'm open to that too.
when you talk about it being really difficult, the recovery process, can you give me an example of what that looks like for people who are watching who would have no idea, or people who are listening who think I might have some of this same things going on in my life?
Absolutely. The first thing that's really important is you want to work with an OCD specialist. That's key. I went through the OCD Foundation, which is what I recommend to people I've referred out. And the importance of that is that they're going to work on exposure response prevention, which is when you start basically having triggers in small controlled doses and you control the compulsion and reaction that happens afterward. So, for example, one of mine that was really crazy was I actually had to stand with the doctor and use a butter knife and stab a pillow and say that it was a loved one, which sounds crazy from an outsider's
Yeah,
perspective.
yeah. Can you
Yeah.
expand on that? Because
Yes,
I'm not
absolutely.
sure how that's helpful.
Yeah, basically what you're doing is you are basically saying that I don't care about the outcome of what is occurring in my irrationality. And what that does is it actually stops the anxiety cycle in full speed. You're pleading the fifth, as they say. You're saying, I don't care what is happening. I know that this thought is irrelevant and doesn't have power. By taking a butter knife, as ridiculous as it sounds at the time as a 21-year-old adult, my mom was in the room, okay? My superhero mother. Here I am basically saying, this is you, mom, the pillow. What it does is it really takes the power away from harm OCD. In the moment, it was one of the most excruciating things I've ever had to do because in my mind, I believe all these things are true. And the doctors have to say, guess what? They might be true. They don't want to give you that reassurance. And that's really what that exercise does. It's
And so obviously then by stabbing a pillow with a butter knife, no one's getting harmed.
correct.
And
Yes.
it's the same as your thoughts aren't going to harm people either unless you
Exactly.
act on them. Is that,
And it's
am I right? Am I in the right?
You're in the right lane, exactly.
Okay.
And the key is that there's a lot of taboo around OCD, and even just sharing this now is quite difficult. People could walk away with assumptions.
Yeah.
OCD people are not dangerous, and we just have a lot of irrationality that we are dangerous or harmful or not responsible or contaminated, and there's different subtypes of OCD that will dictate your treatment. So for me, it was that. For somebody else, it might be entirely different.
Different. Yeah. Yeah. And so you're choosing not to drive for now, but like you said, something could come up in your future where you're in a place where you feel ready for that
Yeah,
and you
yeah.
get the help you need to achieve that. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
And let's also talk about your husband because you've said that he was made for you
Ooh,
because he's very understanding and supportive. And he's a teacher, right?
yes, he is.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that makes sense too, right? He's a nurturer and a teacher.
Oh, yeah.
So how important is your support system? And I'd imagine there's so many people who deal with this disorder who don't have near the support that you have. And, I feel for the people who are going through any type of crisis in their life or, a diagnosis of mental health or physical health. And what has that meant for you?
I think that support, we can context it in many ways. In my case, it is mainly my husband right now. With an OCD condition, it is so tactile on all spaces of life, from cooking to what you're eating to your conversation to just existing, that person has to learn and be trained on how, not just not to trigger you, but how to not feed that anxiety cycle. He really had to learn and step up and educate himself there. And he did it in such a way that was volunteer and without, ceasing, wanting to learn everything about my
No judgment. Hmm.
yeah, and was just open arms. He comes from a family of 10. I'm an only child, just for context. So even just our realities and worlds were so different, but that nurturing part really just came together. And um, I've never been in a better place. And I think a strong relationship, marriage, some sort of partnership with anyone,
Friendships, whatever it is. Hmm.
yeah, it makes all the difference to talk to somebody about what you're going through.
Yeah. And building that community, whatever that looks like for you, it's different for everyone.
Yes.
I have friends that I've been friends with for most or all of my life. A lot of the people in my parents' life I've known them most of my life because my parents, we keep people around. And I think if we take care of our people, they hopefully take care of us. And, there, maybe it isn't your family. Maybe it's friendships. Maybe it's your church. Maybe it's your workspace, whatever it is. But it is important to start to build that community of people who support you and, like you say, don't judge you and can kind of see past whatever the diagnosis or the assumption is of it.
Yeah, opportunities are endless in the virtual landscape. Like, I'm handicapped, I can't drive, and that has not stopped me from meeting wonderful people. And I've actually helped people get their diagnosis now too, which has been the best full circle experience.
Well, let's take a break. When we come back, let's talk about your business, Set Apart Company, and the work you're doing with your art. And anytime we can find a way, I'm a huge believer in monetizing what we love and still love it.
Yeah.
That's the sweet spot. So
Yes.
let's take a break. We'll come back in just a moment. We are finishing up with you, Sarah Edwards, owner of Set Apart Company. I want to talk about the work that you do and how you use your artwork. You figured out a way to monetize that artwork. You also work with other people, and you are really kind of breaking down the barriers of what people said you were capable of doing. And so let's talk specifically about your artwork, and just even what you're wearing is your color. The whole thing is your vibe, and I see it in your work. And you and I met, I mentioned a couple of years ago when we were both starting to seek out kind of this online space of what it's going to look like for us in a digital or coaching space. And I ran into your page the other day and hadn't seen you in a while and was really happy to see your success, but also wanted to mention just the color and the vibe that you put off. We have like 0.3 seconds to decide if we want to follow someone on Instagram. And even if I didn't know you, I would follow you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
Branding is important.
Yes, it is. So let's talk about that. And let's talk about your artwork first and how you've managed to turn it into a business, but also help people in the process.
Yeah. Well, professionally, I've worked in the art director space for many years, hence the branding kind of need that's happening. And that's really influenced my own business. I think really the crossroads for me was I noticed that a lot of creative and entrepreneurial minds were struggling to process the business world, how to go through their art. And I had started making digitized art, stickers, Etsy store, selling at craft fairs, as well as my full-time art director career. And I've really mastered how to work with my neurodivergent brain, which is really what the color represents, and how to take those steps and break things down for success and for putting myself out there and sharing my story. That started to resonate with me that a lot of people didn't have that immediate ability. So I set out to start teaching that to the best of my ability on different platforms. Really started to build a community of people thinking, wow, there's finally someone who is neurodivergent, who has disabilities, speaking my language, telling me how to build business, how to put my life back together in a productive, healthy, balanced way. And that's really how a lot of the things I do now is born, which was exciting and unexpected. And to work with people around the world from Mexico to Africa and women of different backgrounds and ages and even just artistic mediums to help them start their business or just work on their finances or work on their mental health has been absolutely amazing and has healed me in so many ways also. And so I'm all over the place now. I'm doing all types of things.
Well, and one of the things that I love about it too, because you talked about this virtual space, is even though you don't drive and your husband's at work all day, he's a teacher, you are connecting with people all day long. And I think that's important because I know the days that I'm just here, typing away, working away, and I haven't talked to anybody, my partner will come home and I'll be talking a million miles a minute and he's been talking all day. I mean, everybody says that and we all deal with that in different forms. And so I think that, getting to have that connection throughout the day, just my getting to talk to you for this period of time is it will make my day feel different the rest of the day, even looking forward to it at the beginning of the day. We have to have that connection in some form.
Absolutely. My whole mantra is working within your limitations. I've been teaching people how to restructure that. And a big part of that is the virtual connection, is the community. I am more of an introvert personality. I have social anxiety that hasn't departed from my life. I coexist with those emotions. So actually the virtual space, building my own community has been just absolutely incredible. And watching other people do the same for their lives has been amazing.
Now, I saw you with a pop-up. What is that about? What do you do at your pop-ups?
I sell a lot of physical products. So
I
a
saw
lot.
the video of it. I wasn't actually at your pop-up. I should be clear.
I know one day I'm hoping to make my way around.
Yeah.
Mainly, actually, a lot of my stickers and prints, I have t-shirts, all that kind of have a mental health tone to them. Like, you are not your thoughts. I had 4 OCD people come up to me and say, wow, I've never said stuff before. Neurodivergent, things like that, affirmational pieces. And then also oil painting. That's a new medium that I've gotten into to really prove to myself that really doesn't matter what you undertake. Your goal is to get to the outcome, get to that finished product. Who cares how you got there and how messy it is? So that's really been an amazing experience for me also. And getting to meet local people and have mental health workers even come up to me, it's just been really, really fun and amazing.
And that's part of the community too that you've built around you, to just have that, now you'll be in touch with those people. Now you have people locally there that you can relate to and can relate to you.
Yeah, it's been amazing. My newest venture has been the Clarity Club. So I've been building this virtual network designed on this beautiful site I've poured a year of my life into to teach people all the things I'm talking about, getting clarity, business building, but also socializing, having a mental health support group. You can be anywhere in the world. That's something that I've been launching this past couple months. And I really want to build a creative, neurodivergent mental health empire for women and everybody who's welcome. So.
Yeah. Well, one thing too, I want to point out, we're just about done here, but I wanted to point out as well that there are so many opportunities in business today. There's so many ways to be creative, to be an entrepreneur, if that's what you want to do, to claim your own time and space. I mean, even stickers. Where would we have had stickers made, 10 years ago, that you can just have t-shirts and stickers and these things made and shipped to you or shipped to whoever wants them and not even hold them in your hands. So whether it's a product-based business or a digital business, I think there's so many opportunities, and I'm just so proud of you and happy for you for all that you've achieved since our last time being in touch. So let's not lose touch again. And as you build out your platforms, let's come back and share them here. Thank you for being here, Sarah.
Thank you so much.
Take care.